Hi everyone, and welcome to a brief video from myself, from Vintage Hi-Fi Guy, because today I wanted to have a bit of a chat with you about linear tracking turntables. Now, some of you will have seen in previous videos maybe my disdain for some linear tracking equipment, mainly due to the fact that a lot of people recognise vertical turntables from some Sharp music centres, which were incredibly popular in the early 1980s. And you may recall that I mentioned before in a previous vid that, you know, over 1 million pieces of vertical music centre equipment was sold by Sharp in the UK around that time. And some have said that over 2.5 million pieces were sold in Europe. So these are incredibly popular pieces of equipment and are now relatively rare collector's items. And certainly I know that a lot of engineers are still repairing various belts, pulleys and bits of plastic that has broken off that equipment in the future. And as I say, if you can find a good one, and a few years ago there were quite a few brand new in box linear tracking pieces of Sharp equipment around, if you can find a good one and you can find a good engineer, then they should give you a few more years of service. The thing is that at that time it was all about budget, and a majority of the development costs and the manufacturing costs were actually in the turntable. So the rest of the equipment, the cassette deck, the tuner and the amplification, and particularly the speakers at that time, were absolutely bloody awful, frankly. So you were effectively spending 300 quid or thereabouts on a music centre, which a majority of the cost had gone into the turntable, and even then the actual reproduction quality was poor. But ignoring that mass market music centre linear tracking equipment, if you ignore that market for a second and have a look at a range of predominantly Technics, but also from brands such as Sansui, even Marantz at the time, these high-profile brands and high-quality brands were also producing a range of linear tracking turntables. It was all the rage. It was a real fashion statement to have a linear tracking turntable. And you know, weirdly, audiophiles at the time were saying how horrific this technology was. Records weren't meant to be played that way, that often the cartridges and styli were proprietary brands, so they weren't quality sort of autophone equipment and the like. And so they were shunned by a lot of the audiophiles in the 70s, 80s and 90s as well. But Technics were beavering away and were producing extremely high quality linear tracking separate turntables. Some were designed for the if you like, the high quality, the esoteric market, and some were designed for more mass market MIDI hi-fi and hi-fi separate systems which were being put together at the time. And actually the technology, the build quality of those Technics decks were really good, and quite a few of them survive, albeit that trying to find one where all the logic circuitry, where all the integrated circuitry, if you like, works, is quite tricky. And certainly I've been through maybe 2 or 3 of these turntables where you think everything's fine, and then various components within the logic circuitry go wrong very quickly after use, and so the tone arms don't lift and they get stuck, and the things like tracking weight and some of those issues with linear tracking turntables were controlled via quite rudimentary electronic circuitry and have the tendency to go wrong, obviously 40 years after they were made. So about 12 months ago, at the start of the UK's major lockdown back in March 2020, I came across a Technics SL-L1 direct drive turntable, linear tracking. Now, the SL-L1 was one of the first out there, and it was, as before with a lot of this sort of first off equipment, was incredibly over-engineered. And I thought, I wonder if this is another one of those Japanese first direct drive linear tracking turntables which had dicky solenoids and which didn't work particularly well. Now, when I got it, it needed cleaning. It was absolutely filthy. The linear tracking tone arm simply didn't track across the record correctly, and the pulleys inside had unfortunately got very dry as well, so it made a lot of peculiar noise. But as I've said before in earlier videos about direct drive turntables, if you get a good one and the motor was good at the time and it's been well looked after, i.e. it's not been in a very dry or very damp house or storeroom or the like, then you've got a turntable for life. The motor will simply keep on turning. The only downside with this is that the T4P cartridge and stylus are quite rare these days. And over the last, 9 months certainly, I've been trying to find a really good replacement cartridge and stylus for this turntable, and finally found one. So what I've got here for you now is the Technics SL-L1. Now this is a real beauty of a turntable. It's incredibly easy to use. You can see here on the front panel you've got the power button, the cue and review, the size of the record, because of course it senses the size of the record and then makes the appropriate speed adjustment, 33 or 45. You've got a start button and a stop button. On the rear of the turntable you've got separate phono outputs, so you can pop a really good quality pair of phono cables in there. You've of course got the ubiquitous ground cable and a mains input as well. So this turntable has been a bit of my pride and joy. It's been a real lockdown project for me, and as you can see the perspex lid is in an incredibly good condition, and then inside the platter is original. You've still got the original platter mat and the sensing lugs in there as well, which are all working perfectly. The record sizer in the centre, and a brand new T4P cartridge and stylus in there as well. And I'm only selling this because one of the slight downsides with some linear tracking turntables is, despite what the press was saying at the time, they are susceptible to rumble. They are susceptible to having speakers which are very close to them and creating feedback effectively. Now, a lot of the press at the time said that linear tracking avoids feedback completely. The way that the tone arm rides within the groove means that whatever you throw at it environmentally, it won't give you feedback. Well, it does, and unfortunately in this tight space, in my shed come office come studio, the speakers are very close to the turntable, and even the speakers that you can't see, which are over there, which are floor standing loudspeakers, even without any bass boost, or with turning the bass right down on the or the low frequencies down on the graphic equalizer, the turntable does pick up some feedback. And certainly when I use this in the main house and I put it onto my proper hi-fi cabinet, it works absolutely fine there. But I don't need vinyl in the house, because where we live is a very old house and my neighbours are very close. So if I played my music down there, I'd get told off. So all my record collection is up here in the shed, and I needed a new turntable. And I've just managed to source one that takes me back, right the way back to the early 1980s, which is a new JVC turntable, which I will tell you about in a future video. So, for now, this beautiful SL-L1 Technics direct drive linear tracking turntable with new stylus and new cartridge will very soon be available to buy. I'm thinking of pricing it around about £200. I think that's fair. It reflects some of the effort and time that's gone into not repairing it, but making it work 100%. And I can guarantee you, it does work 100%. So whoever buys this unit, whoever's fortunate enough to have this as part of their hi-fi system in the house or shed, I know that you'll love it. So this very shortly will be going up for sale on the Facebook page and also on eBay as well. If you are interested in buying it, then what I will do is I'll wrap it all up, because we all know that sending turntables in the post is problematic. or you can collect it from me here in Dunster, or later on in April you can collect it also from an address in Cornwall as well. So I could arrange to either have it collected from Dunster, which is in Exmoor, Somerset, or from Mevagissey in Cornwall as well. So for now, I'll leave you with it. I'll put some photos of the turntable onto my Instagram and also onto my Facebook page. If you're interested, then drop me a line, drop me a direct message or whatever you want to do, and I'll box it up, send it, or you can collect it from me here in person. So for now, I hope you've enjoyed this brief video, and look forward to catching up with you very soon for the full review of the Philips Black Tulip and the Rena Danish Hi-Fi as well. So take care, see you soon, bye.